We are joined by Gary Rose. He's a professor of political science at Sacred Heart University. Professor, thank you very much for your time. Firstly, I want to get your reaction to Ms. Harris's first campaign speech in Wisconsin. And she introduced herself to the country. She launched verbal salvos at Trump. What did you think of her first rally?
Very dynamic. And there's no question at all that right now Kamala Harris has media behind her. She is the story, and also she has the momentum. And let's add also, as political scientists do, we talk about the 3 M's, media, momentum, and money. And she, as you already mentioned, she had $100 million that came in immediately. And so she right now has everything going for her as far as, her presidential candidacy. But it's all of this is euphoria right now, and it could settle down. And the polls right now I know show her like 2 points ahead, or maybe tied with former President Trump. But this is very early stages of this campaign still, and many things can change between now and November.
Okay, I want to ask you about a possible 4th M. Kamala Harris lean heavily into support for parents, caregivers, and in particular, the middle class. Is that an early indication of a team's overarching strategy to reach voters, particularly independents and I suppose moderates?
Well, yes. I mean, a middle-class strategy is a winning strategy. There's no question about that. And I know she's been talking a great deal about that already, and she has talked about it even before she was, basically coronated here as the party's candidate. And so middle class and the abortion issue, add that. You talk about the women's vote, and then you add the young person's vote to that. And you add certainly add the African American vote, which is very significant. And she right now has really a very strong coalition that she is building very quickly, and it's also, as you note, a middle class coalition, and that's how you win presidential elections. But in the end, I do want to point out that we don't know who her running mate is yet. And moreover, this election is coming down to essentially 6 key states. And independents, as you mentioned, in those 6 states will probably determine the election.
Professor Rose, we know that Joe Biden polls poorly on the economy and immigration, but we also know that voters like his policies. I mean, I can name a couple of them: price caps on drugs, the infrastructure bill, semiconductor bill, if you like. Do you see Kamala Harris reaching out to Americans and saying, look, we did all that, or is she going to distance herself?
No, actually, I think she's going to, in many ways, run on the Biden record. And you mentioned the infrastructure bill, the inflation control bill, which was really a climate bill, which is actually very popular. It polls quite well among a number of key constituencies. And so I don't believe that she's going to distance herself from the Biden agenda. In fact, we're going to hear a lot of wonderful things about the Biden agenda, as we already have in her presentations. And so, no, you can't run from it when you've been a vice president. And I think she's going to accentuate the positives there of that agenda. There are issues, obviously, and Trump will exploit them. But nevertheless, I think you're going to hear Kamala Harris essentially elevate and talk more at great length about the Biden agenda. She can't divorce herself from that because she was actually in the center of it.
Professor, you earlier mentioned that it's early days, the initial euphoria, the excitement, and Trump pollsters are already calling this a Harris honeymoon phase. What can Team Harris and Democrats do to sustain this upward momentum?
Yeah, well, media, obviously, appearances. I think many personal, campaign visits in key states, that could certainly keep this going, because that gets a lot of media attention and it does bring money in. And so, she can't at this point. I mean, they still have a convention coming, but she right now, I think, needs to keep this momentum going. She has already hit the ground running, and she needs to keep running. You can't let up This is almost August now, and we're moving into really the home stretch. And so I believe that her campaign rallies, I think, are key to this. And of course, we're going to see a number of very positive and very attractive campaign ads coming. And on the other side, we're going to see a lot of the attack ads against her. And also, let's not forget the fact that we do have President Trump, former President Trump, who has his own liabilities, and I believe that Kamala Harris is going to exploit those. In fact, she's already been talking about how she was a prosecutor and he's a convicted felon. So you're going to hear a lot more about that. But I think to really answer your question, a lot of it has to do with campaign rallies and media advertising. And I think she can keep that momentum going that we're witnessing right now.
All right, Professor Rose, we'll have to leave it there for now, but thank you very much for your time and your insight this morning. Professor Gary Rose from Sacred Heart University.